But wait, before we continue with this video, we are nominated for a crit award.
What?
Yeah,
Since when?
Yeah, since I don't know. That was like a week and a half ago. I'm not answering that. We would love if you
almost 3 weeks ago.
I know. We would love if you would vote for the Roleplay Relays Heroes Without Borders charity event for best charity event of 2024. We brought together some phenomenal people, raised a bunch of money for charity for Doctors Without Borders, and we would like to do so again this year. And so if you want to, maybe it looks really cool if we can put a badge on this year's stream that's like, yeah, we won a crit award for charity work. That would be awesome and super duper cool. So go vote. The link is in the description or in the comment below somewhere.
Or at the top of our link in bio for the Roleplay Relay.
There you go.
Yeah. The voting only goes till the end of the month. So keep that in mind. Now is the best time to go vote. If it is July, it's too late. Don't worry about this part. Skip ahead to the rest of the video.
Now back to the video.
Ooh, what's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Claru.
And this is Discussing Daggerheart.
Hell yeah.
We're back. You and I talking about it again. It's been a while since we put out an episode like this.
Yeah, it was a
3 weeks.
minute. Yeah, because we were gone and then we got excited and we
Well,
put
we've never
out...
missed an episode. So we did,
Yeah.
I put out an interview with Jeremy Cobb.
Yeah.
For the Kickstarter with City of the Black Rose, the setting from 3 Black Halflings that he created.
Very cool.
That you should go check out the Kickstarter for, because that Kickstarter is almost over. And then the following week, we put out a Session 0.
Yeah.
With Quincy's Tavern and Dice Cream Sandwich in the new Last Yoke City campaign frame that I'm working on.
We got excited. We talked about Session Zeros and we were like, we're going to be with friends who would be great at this. Let's just put this out. Let's do that.
Yeah, and so that Session 0 will culminate in a one-shot that is coming up next Saturday. So this Saturday is like the... Okay, can we do math? Today's the 16th.
This Saturday is the
20th. And so next Saturday will be the 27th?
Wait, I think this Saturday is the 21st.
Then it might be the 28th. Whatever Saturday is, the last Saturday of June.
Yeah.
Do that.
There you go.
But as we were sitting down to record Discussing Daggerheart, where we're going to be going through these cards, which are beautifully gold foiled for the limited edition in a way that leaves gold glitter on your hands when you touch them.
Like very minimally.
Very, very minimally.
Yeah.
You can kind of see like little gold flecks. Thank you, Darrington Press, for making them so beautiful that we almost don't want to touch them. It makes us a little bit uncomfortable.
So nice.
As we're sitting down here, crazy things are happening in the world of TTRPGs, of Daggerheart, of everything. In that Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins...
Jump ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had left WotC a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people were wondering where...
What's next?
Yeah. Are they just done?
Yeah.
You know, you once you've made enough editions of D&D, how many more D&Ds are you going to D&D?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to D&D. They're just going to D.
They're just going to Daggerheart.
Yeah, they're hopping on that D.
Yeah.
The singular D.
Hey, honestly, fair. I'd hop on Darrington Press's D too, you know?
We have.
Yeah.
We have. We have. So, Clarence, you know, you've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for a long time. You have been toying with the fruits of these two men's labor.
Yeah, okay. I do want to clarify that, like, some people would consider me to not played a long time. That didn't come out as English.
What do you mean?
Well, I started playing in I've been playing less than a decade, and some people have been playing for like 5 of those.
Sure. But you've been playing for you were in like weekly campaigns pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Like, I think that if you're looking at the way in which D&D and TTRPGs in general kind of blew up during COVID, I think that if you've been playing them since before COVID, that is like...
It's longer than a lot of people.
In the before times.
Yeah. A lot of people found TTRPGs during the pandemic, and I am grateful that I had experience with it before, you know, the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways. So I've been playing... I guess next year would be a decade, I think.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so.
So, you've been playing in these two men's work in their worlds. Not really their worlds, but more their systems.
Yeah.
For almost a decade. Mm-hmm. What do you think it means for Daggerheart that they're coming on board over there?
Well, look, I think that Darrington Press as a company is still like baby, right? Very new. It has only been around for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And these two people are coming from a company that is decades long, like decades old, right? And I think that where their expertise is really going to benefit Daggerheart is in how these games evolve and stay within the cultural mindset and how you appeal to a new audience. And I think the evolution of Daggerheart, years and years down the road, because I think this game is here for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that they are going to be integral to the success of that through the ages, I guess.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and it is interesting, right? Because you're right. Darrington Press is baby, and they do not yet have a second edition of a game.
Yeah.
Right? Like Pathfinder's on second edition. I don't really know what the fuck's going on with Vampire the Masquerade. Some of these games have been around for a long time. The rules have iterated, they've changed, they've grown. Kids on who knows what the next thing they're going to be on, but they're going to be on something, probably drugs. And
okay, wait, but kids on drugs. Actually,
we should make a system.
So we have a pitch, okay? All right, kids on bikes. We have a pitch.
We call up Hunters Entertainment. Like, please don't sue us.
We would like to pitch you this idea, please.
It's a TTRPG called Kids on Drugs.
Yeah. I think they'd go for it.
Wait, now I want to make this.
I know.
As a gag for Gen Con, I want to have leaflets. That's like a 3-page game, and it's called Kids on Drugs.
18 plus. 18 plus, but,
Kids on Drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we mean kids, we mean 22-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or me at 12.
Not that. Not everybody grew up in Calgary.
But I think you're right? What is the hand that steadies the ship as it becomes Daggerheart 2.0?
Yeah.
Or 1.5, or whatever it ends up being. What is the experience in the room with doing that? And I think that for a number of reasons, I do not like 2024 D&D. Right? There's a number of problems that I have with it. And every time we have played it, which we haven't done on camera yet.
No.
And we might never, we might become a mostly Daggerheart channel until Draw Steel and the Cosmere TTRPG come out.
Unless I do more Stardew.
Sure, but even that was in 2014. I don't think we'll move that game to 2024.
That's what I mean. I was just trying to say that if this channel gets 5,000 subscribers, I will do a part 2 to Stardew Valley. Anyways.
And so the thing that I think that you hit on that I wasn't even thinking about was they are almost invaluable in the not creating a new game, which I think Darrington Press has shown it can do on its own.
Yeah, but in
iterating on a game that you've already made. Especially with things like The Void, where they're playtesting new classes with the Fighter, which is the Monk, and the Warlock, which is a Warlock. If you watch Last Oak City one-shot next Saturday, you will see someone play a Warlock, I think for the first time in an actual play. I think we might be the first people.
We might,
We're probably
depending
not,
on when we drop it.
Maybe the first in-person in-studio actual play.
Yeah.
So no, I do think that they bring that experience in how do you take a game that's out and resell it?
Yes.
One of the things I think is really interesting, and one of the reasons why I was a little bit surprised by this news, is the scope of studio they are going from to the scope of studio they're going to is going to mean that they're going to have to relearn skills they probably haven't used in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, maybe at that level, that's actually kind of enticing.
Yeah.
You shake things up a little bit. It's I think it's easy to get complacent, and that there are a lot of creative people who kind of get tired of that complacency and want a revamp in that area. And I don't think that these two would have taken the job, I think, if they weren't excited for something new, a little change of scenery.
Yeah, and there's a level of you can't delegate that anymore because that position doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a level of oh no, actually you have to do that yourself now.
Yeah.
And I do agree. I think it might be fun for them, but I wonder what the growing pains of going from a behemoth of a company that has somebody for everything down to a company, and I think they'll both excel at this. I'm not saying they're gonna fail or anything.
No,
I just think it's a funny kind of thought process of you're going from a company that has thousands of employees, the scope and size of it is crazy, where there's so many more people between you and a decision being accepted.
Yeah.
Whereas now, the decision is 5 people in a room and they're like, yeah, like
all right,
hell
let's
yeah,
go.
brother, let's do this.
Yeah, I think this is a huge win for Darrington Press, honestly.
Yeah.
I obviously don't know these two guys as people. I can't speak to their character or how it is to work with them, but...
I think I bumped into Chris Perkins at a party at Gen Con last year.
Yeah, maybe.
But it was also just
Who
like
knows?
a white bald guy, so like I can't be sure.
Who knows?
I wasn't bald yet, so we couldn't commiserate over that.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Not that I'm bald now. I was bald for a while. If this is your first video, I'm aware that I have hair.
Yeah. No, I think that this is a big win for Darrington. I'm really excited to see what comes out of it.
The only thing I don't want to come out of this, and I don't think that this was either of these two men, the more I have read D&D modules, think that the writing of D&D modules is bad. And I hope the thing they don't do is bring that style of module to Daggerheart.
Fair.
Because I don't like it.
Yeah. That's why I never in a decade of playing D&D, I have only ever played one module, and that was here on this channel, Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen,
and we barely played
it. So I really can't speak on playing modules.
We also did Vecna Eve of Ruin. You only did part of it. I technically did the whole thing.
Yeah, I did one episode.
Yeah,
you kind of speed ran the whole thing.
Yeah
yeah
I think that I think the D&D modules are good for like pulling moments out of and then using those moments for other things. I just think that they are hampered by like Dungeons and Dragons, like race essentialism is baked into a lot of the modules, which is always tough, and you kind of have to work your way around depending on your table. Obviously, there's some tables that are like, yeah. But the other problem with them is oftentimes the villain hooks aren't very good.
Yeah.
And it's because the modules don't prepare the dungeon master for getting the villain out of a scenario if the party encounters them too early. And so they just have the villains in so many modules. If you go read them, so many of them have you like talk about a villain, but the players just never meet them. Yeah. And if you like really have played a lot of TTRPGs, like one of the fun things about being the DM is to throw that big bad in early, right? It's why like I think Strahd in a lot of ways is a memorable villain from a module is because he's present in a way that like technically Lord Soth is the big bad of Shadowlands Shadow of the Dragon Queen, Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. But the problem is that you never meet Soth, and he's not even the final fight. You meet like in the book there's like an avatar of him that you fight that comes out of a mirror at one point or something like that.
Okay.
But you never actually fight Soth, and you're not strong enough to fight Soth at the end of the module.
Right.
And so he's on
it ain't happening.
His giant head is on the cover, and you think like, oh my god, we're gonna go fight Lord Soth. You're not. And so the module leads up to this fight with this like random red dragon rider person that you're like, sorry if I'm spoiling this while you're playing it, and you're like, oh no, my DM's been running us through this, but
oops.
There's a legitimate like problem in that module of like the every time you meet a villain in that module, the players are meant to defeat them in that fight. And then they're meant to just go care about something next.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a really tough way to run a story game like a TTRPG. And so I do hope that as these two are assimilated into Daggerheart and Candela and all the other things, I hope that that style was a Hasbro thing and not a Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford thing.
Yes.
Because I just don't like it. And if they start putting out books like that, I'll probably be critical of them.
Yeah.
As I have been critical of a lot of the modules I've read for D&D. And I think D&D is a great game.
Yeah.
I just think you have to kind of homebrew, even if you want to play a module. And I think that modules should make GMing easier. You still have to homebrew them so much to make them really work.
Yeah.
And I think that it's on the onus of these publishing companies to put out books that can be played by people who don't have time to put the homebrew work in. Like the goal of the modules should be, we are going to provide GMs with a resource for people who don't have the time like I do to sit down and pre-plan and put it all together the way that I want it, right?
Yeah.
People who work a 9 to 5 and they want to just open a book and play the game and have like an experience. And I think that D&D modules aren't that in an unfortunate way.
Right.
But they look like that when you first start DMing. I know, because when I first started DMing, I was like, oh, I get it. This will make things easier.
Yeah.
And then it started to fall apart really fast, and the book isn't like set up to support you as it's falling apart.
Yeah.
It's like just railroad them back on.
Yeah.
This character, if they don't do this, have this character show up and force them to do it. And it's like, God, that's not that's not really fun.
Yeah.
That's not a good time for anybody. It's not good for time for the DM. It's not a good time for the players. And so I hope that they take what they've learned making those books and come in with something new for Daggerheart.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think they're both very talented. Obviously, they're both part of the 2014 D&D. That is the reason why I got back into TTRPGs after a very long break. Mm-hmm. And I still love that game. Don't love the company that made it, but love that game.
Yeah.
And don't always love. Sometimes. Here's what I will say: to credit where it's due. Mm-hmm. We should talk WotC. You know what I mean? But the Dungeons and Dragons Twitter, both when Daggerheart came out and today, put out very nice statements in support of Darrington Press.
Oh, that's
good.
And
I thought that was classy as hell.
Okay, we love to see that.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah.
I don't don't really keep up with them on Twitter.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that because it's, it shows some forethought and effort.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
And just like I think that they could have said nothing.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so much better that they said nice things.
Yes.
And congratulated Darrington Press. I thought that was very classy.
Yeah.
Partially because when I think of D&D Beyond, the thing I think about is the Critical Role theme song.
Oh.
You got your perfect warlock, weapons and supplies. Like that is what I think of when I think of D&D Beyond.
Gotcha.
And like WotC owes Critical Role so much.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's our thoughts. I think it's exciting. It's hard to like talk about it too much more just because they haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
They've just been hired. It probably means great things for the game. Or it's going to be an epic disaster and we're all going to watch it burn to the ground.
Well,
who knows?
Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll find out when we find out. But for now, we have Daggerheart to actually talk about because this game is out. You can play it if you already have a copy. If you don't have a copy, you're going to have to wait. It's very, very, very sold out.
Which, congratulations. That's really awesome.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. All of the like team at Darrington Press posting the photos of like, we're like number 56 in books on Amazon.
Crazy.
But that's not on the thumbnail. Maybe I'll put them on the thumbnail small. But the reason you're here is to talk about all of the Ancestry abilities.
Isn't that how you get clicks? You just put someone else's face on the thumbnail and they're like, wow.
That was how you got clicks for a long time.
Yeah.
I remember the Megan Fox watch days where Philip DeFranco would just put Megan Fox on every thumbnail and had a segment called Megan Fox Watch.
Yeah.
Just because he was like, if I put her on the thumbnail, I get views and I have nothing to say about her.
He did the same thing with Belle Delphine.
Oh, that's
Every time she was on the thumbnail. Anyways, yeah.
And meanwhile, Sydney Sweeney's out here thinking that she's original for selling her bathwater.
Oh my God.
Did I try and get a bar? Yes. Did I fail? Yeah, because I didn't really care that much.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that would be funny to make a video about.
Well, this is a podcast, so we can talk about this for 1 second.
Oh, great.
I signed up for the Dr. Squatch mailing list to try and get it, because I was like, oh, for content, for videos, having that bar of soap, whatever, it'll be useful.
Sure, yeah, that's
We'll
funny.
use it as a prop.
Yeah.
The problem is, I completely forgot that it was like signed in at a certain time. I figured they'd send me like an email or something.
Yeah.
And then they sent me an email, it's like, it's sold out. And I was like, I probably should have paid more attention to that.
And then they sent you like 7 emails a day.
But this is the thing, yeah. That it was the worst subscription service I've ever signed up for like, or not subscription, but
like email lists.
Email lists,
yeah. Oh my
Dr.
God.
Squatch, you made it miserable.
Yeah.
Like I unsubscribed as soon as they sold out, and I was like, I got 2 text messages and multiple emails every day.
Awful. Yeah.
Absolutely
Genuinely awful. Don't do that.
I don't know why you think that's what your audience wants.
Yeah.
Just terrible work.
Yeah. 0 out of 10.
Because now I'm never going to buy Dr. Squatch.
No, literally.
I have no desire.
Like so off put. Yeah. No, it was bad.
Watch, there's like an email in our inbox right now like, hey, we're Dr. Squatch. We want to work with nerdy.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's talk about ancestries. Let's start with... Wait, these are ancestries and these are communities. I thought... so they're not races and communities make ancestries. It's ancestries and communities make backgrounds, maybe? We should know that.
What do you mean make something?
There in the book, it's like your ancestry plus your community is your... But I can't remember what the word is. Anyway, we're going to do these in alphabetical order, starting with the Clank.
The Clank.
The Clank is a sentient mechanical being built from... a variety of materials, including metal, wood, and stone. Now, the way that ancestries work in Daggerheart is you can't have 2 of them. You can have that mixed heritage, and the or maybe it's heritages. I don't remember. There's 2 abilities. When you want to mix ancestries, you have to take 1 top ability and 1 bottom ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
1 good one, 1 mid
One top and one bottom.
As all things should be.
Yes.
And all the verses out there, I'm so sorry.
It's really hard if you have 2 bottoms, you know, like, it's, yeah.
And so the top ability for the Clank, the little robot fucks, is purposeful design. Decide who made you and for what purpose. At character creation, choose one of your experiences that best aligns with this purpose and gain a permanent +1 bonus to it.
It's pretty nice. If you are adept at using your experiences. Because I know that some people, it is one of those features that people are still getting used to.
Yeah.
We've chatted about it a little bit. We'll probably do a whole segment on it.
Yeah.
When we get there. But yeah, this is great if you know what your experiences are and you're confident using them.
And if your DM understands the characters and gives you the ability to use it all. Like, not gives you the ability, but if the campaign, this is why session zeros are important. If the campaign is relevant enough to your character that you get to use that experience often.
Yeah.
And this is why you need to understand what kind of game you're playing.
Yeah, like, do I tailor my experiences to be more combat focused or more politically driven?
Yeah.
Or, you know, or maybe it's more casual relationship building, you know, because I always find it is a delicate balance between picking abilities that are useful, but also part of who your character is, right?
Yeah.
I've definitely picked things where I'm like, this is fully my character, but God, it did not come up in the one shot, the campaign, the game, whatever it is, like, at all. It was, yeah, I had no opportunities to use this. And then I've taken stuff where it's like, oh, well, I know this isn't really my character, so, like, figuring it out in a roleplay aspect is kind of difficult, but it's really useful to the situation.
The second ability, which, going off of what you just said about one-shots, is efficient. When you take a short rest, you can choose a long rest move instead of a short rest move. That feels like the ultimate like hybrid race ability for one-shots.
For one-shot, yeah.
How many one-shots are you in where you're like, God, I would love a long rest. And you never long rest. You only ever get a short rest in a one-shot. This ability gives you that one full heal.
Yeah, it is nice. If I were building like a mixed race, like, that is the ability that I would take from the Clank for sure.
The one interesting thing about the mixed thing with Clank in particular is that either you and your GM have to work together to be like, your parent was made, but your parent was made with the ability to inseminate or be fertilized by another race. Yeah. Or you have to, because I think the fun thing to be is like, I am a cyborg. Like, half of my body was rebuilt. Yes. So I think that the mixed heritage thing with Clanks in particular can be really interesting. Yeah. Because a lot of it could be like, I was struck by a comet and half of my body was seared away. Yeah. And wood elves rebuilt the left half of my body out of twigs. Yeah. And, like, there's something really, you're like half Groot. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunities for half Clanks to be a response to trauma. Yeah. In a way that could make some really cool roleplay choices.
Trauma or, like, an experimentation. Like, you could be born out of a, like, hybrid of organic and inorganic material, like, I guess, like, living material. You know, like, you are part dragon, part rock. Like, like, there are so many creative ways that you can be this hybrid when you're bringing Clanks into the equation that really, really drive a story forward, that drive character development forward. Maybe they were somebody who then became part Clank, or they are a brand new being and they've woken up.
Or they were a Clank who is magically becoming a person. They're a Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Like, you could easily be like a Pinocchio character. Yeah. And then you have Geppetto being your dad, and then your mom is, I don't know, the witch that's turning you into a human. Yeah. Next up in the classes, the ancestries.
Dracona, speaking of dragons, Dracona resemble wingless dragons in humanoid form and possess a powerful elemental breath. Hell yeah. So the top benefit here is your scales act as natural protection. When you would take severe damage, you can mark a stress and mark 1 fewer hit points.
Interesting. That's useful early in combat. That gets a little bit more worrisome later on,
When
where
you're stressed.
yeah, you're gonna take that damage anyway.
Yes. Yeah. If you have this ability, it pairs very well with something that can clear stress.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
It's an interesting ability when using stress as a part of the build.
Oh, and it doesn't say that there's like once per day or once per rest or whatever. It's whenever.
Yeah, but how often are you taking severe damage, right? Like, I feel like...
True.
You know. I do think that depending on your DM, they might not allow you to stack with that with an armor slot.
Yeah.
Because then you could... Well, some DMs would. I would, you know. In last Yoke City, I let that Warlock ability stack with armor slots. So Kevin was able to reduce his damage by 2 thresholds, at least once. But these because they've changed armor in Daggerheart to being once per attack, and it's lower 1 threshold, these abilities that allow you to double your armor in those moments essentially are really important, especially like for fights where you are taking damage but you don't have stress. The problem becomes stress is both a resource you can use but also kind of a time bomb on your character a little bit, right?
Yes.
And so this ability, I feel like this is an interesting ability because it is very powerful and there's a lot it can do, but it also comes with a need to manage something and
it only works if it's severe damage.
And build around your build, yeah.
Right? Which severe damage hopefully is not happening that often, right?
Well, especially because it is so easy to kill people in Daggerheart. Because there's no death saves.
No death saves.
Yeah.
The second thing is the elemental breath. Choose an element for your breath, such as electricity, fire, or ice. You can use this breath against a target or a group of targets within very close range, treating it as an instinct weapon that deals D8 magic damage using your proficiency. So depending on what level you are, depends how many D8s you get to roll, but like being able to target a group of people is pretty nice.
This is one of those times where one of the interesting things about Daggerheart is it will have rules like that, not 10-foot cone, but within very close group of people, or it's very close, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So within like 10, 15 feet. And these are the moments where I do think Daggerheart asks players and GMs to have a little bit better of a relationship than Dungeons & Dragons does, because you are going to have to talk to your DM and be okay with their rulings about what that means for them.
Yeah.
Right? Because if a player was like, I spin and hit everyone around me, I would be like, no, it's not that's asking too much from the ability. I might allow that if there are player characters in range. I'm like, you can do that, but you're going to hit these 2 people.
Yeah.
Right? But then, of course, that opens up the problem is that opens up the window to argue about it later. But I do think that this is a great ability. It's in one direction. It's kind of like a cone.
Yeah.
And I would kind of lay down my DM foot pretty early on that, so we're not arguing about who they can hit forever.
Yes.
Because the language isn't very clear. And sometimes the language of Daggerheart isn't as clear.
Yes.
Because it opens itself up to the narrative. It opens itself up to the story. But I do think that players need to understand that going into their session zeros and going into their games.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that... first of all, I have gone on record to say, like, the DM is always right.
Yeah.
Like, at the table, the DM is always right. If you want to talk to your DM afterwards and be like, hey, I didn't understand something, or, like, this didn't make sense to me, then that is also a conversation that you can have.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, I want to do this, and you're like, that wouldn't work like this, then it's okay, we're moving on. But I think that going off of the DM is always right, having a move like this where you can hit a large group of people, and maybe I'm like, well, does it also hit this one as well? And you could be like, well, they're kind of weirdly on the cusp. Maybe it hits them, but it like doesn't kill them. And instead of eviscerating a group of enemies, you leave one with like 1 hit point, and then that leaves a door open for more like role playing abilities and character choices of, do we kill this person? Do we give them a chance to surrender, let them live, that kind of thing? Which, again, there's positives and negatives for the more general wording of these rules, because if you've got someone who wants to prioritize role-play and stuff like that, like, I think that would be a really fun choice. Yeah,
it is also interesting that this doesn't say that you make an attack roll with it.
Right.
So this does just hit.
Yeah.
And that also... it gets into one of the things that I find interesting about Daggerheart is that you don't roll anything for this, so you just do it.
Yeah.
Which means that there's no hope or fear.
True.
And it is the one thing about initiative in Daggerheart that I think can get a little bit skewed, and I think Daggerheart DMs are going to have to work around, is the language doesn't open up for you to fail in a way that passes the baton back to the DM. Or for them to build up the currency needed to interrupt the narrative.
Yeah.
Because there is a world where it's one enemy and the Dracona walks up and just keeps breathing on them, right? And so linguistically, there isn't something that breaks that narrative. There's not a like once per short rest or anything in the language of it. It's just, you just do this. And those kind of linguistic holes as a GM make me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to like bring the reins down on it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is irrational for a player to think that they can do this over and over and over again, but someone will argue it.
Sure.
Just because it is irrational doesn't mean someone won't argue it.
Yeah.
And I do kind of keep my ears out for those moments to think like, how would I handle a series of a team of 4 Dragonborn? Oops, all Dragonborn, and they all have this breath attack that doesn't move the needle back to me ever. Yeah. And how do you deal with that as a,
Because if you don't have enough fear to just seize control, then,
Yeah, it's an interesting problem to have.
Yeah.
But the next race is the Dwarf. Dwarves are most easily recognized.
Well, you can try. You know what? Let's just start that one over.
Dwarves are most easily recognized as short humanoids with square frames, dense musculature, and thick hair. Their number 1 ability is Thick Skin. When you take minor damage, you can mark 2 stress instead of marking a hit point.
Okay. All right.
I don't know that I love that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's my favorite thing.
If you have a build where you can clear stress, it's great.
Great. Fantastic.
Or if you are like getting rests enough where clearing stress is available, I do think that it is a little bit at low levels risky. I think as you get leveled up and you have more stress and you have more hit points, it's a much more useful ability. But at low levels, I think it's a little bit of a risk. Because of the full stress, take more stress, take damage kind of equation of it all.
I don't know. It's just kind of prolonging the damage. Like, instead of taking it now, if you then fill up stress, then you're taking it later. It is a good... honestly, it is a good ability if you or someone in your party has a great mechanic to clear stress. Yeah. Honestly. Like...
2 stress can be a lot, though.
2 adds up very quickly.
At a level you have like 8, right? 6 or 8?
Picture the sheet in my head. Yeah.
So, like, like a third of your stress not to take a hit point, it could also save your life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, if you saved that to be more of a last resort than the first couple times you're taking damage filling up stress, like if you just leave some stress slots open in case you get, out.
The other ability here is also about damage, because dwarves are hardy. Increased fortitude. Spend 3 hope to have incoming physical damage.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty nice.
I mean, yeah, it definitely brings us back to, what some people's problem with armor was in the playtest, which is not wanting to do the math of, like, what is half of 39, you know?
Sure.
I understand why some people don't love that kind of stuff, right?
I did, yeah. I found the armor to be the most difficult part.
Yeah, mathematically, because half of 39 is then 19.5, and then you're like, well, I guess it doesn't really matter because it's either above or below your threshold at that point.
Yeah.
But it is an ability that causes you to have to use resources to sit there and be like, okay, what is half? Is that worth it? Because is it higher or lower than a threshold?
Yeah, it is definitely one of those things that like takes a minute to figure out. But it's not an ability you can use all the time because it does cost 3 hope. And you can only hold 5 or 6 at a time. Oh my gosh, I should have had the sheet in front of me because I can feel like I can picture the layout, but I can't picture how many little pips are there. Because you can't have an infinite amount of hope, you do have to. You cannot be using that frequent unless you're rolling like a god.
Yeah.
Which happens.
And not using your hope for anything else.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
3's a lot.
3's a lot, and it could be amazing if your DM is sending things at you that do crazy damage.
True.
Right? It's one of those interesting abilities that's kind of useless against minions.
Yeah.
Because half of 6 is 3, but half of 1 health is still going to be 1 health.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's both of their abilities, I think the dwarf are more situational than something like the Dracona, where like you're going to use your elemental breath all the time.
Yeah.
And the dwarves don't really have an all the time ability.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Which is that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't need one that's always and continuous. But next up we have the elves. All right. Elves are typically tall humanoids with pointed ears and acutely attuned senses. So the first ability they have is quick reactions. Mark a stress to gain advantage on a reaction roll. It's pretty nice.
I'm into that.
I'm super into that.
I think that's a great use of stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
To just have those reflexes like honed.
I also think just like narratively, like doing better on a reaction, stressing you out. That's just like something story wise about that really makes sense to me.
Feels right.
Yeah, that like clicks in a way that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a cool ability.
Yeah. 100%. Big fan of that. And then number 2, Celestial Trance. During a rest, you can drop into a trance to choose an additional downtime move. Again, not great for like a one-shot, but if you're playing a longer campaign, being able to... Cause
do 4 things instead of 3.
Yes, in Daggerheart, if you're here, you've probably read the rules, but just in case you haven't, the long rests are not like D&D, where you just kind of are good. You take a sleep for 8 hours and you're good to go. You have to actually choose which things to replenish.
Rest action.
Yes. So, if you know that you're going into a fight the next day versus if you know that you're sneaking around, like maybe those actions that you would take would be different based on the circumstances of what's coming next.
Well, and also I think the ability, because of Daggerheart's ability for you to use your long rest actions on somebody else.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Like the ability to like heal somebody else or to clear someone else's stress or to do someone else's armor. The elf just becomes a really like MacGyver kind of long rest option.
Yeah.
In that you get that extra action doesn't necessarily have to be for your things. It can be for someone else who, maybe you have a party member who really got the shit kicked out of them in a fight. And you can become a help. Yeah. No, I think that's great.
Yeah. I love abilities that can be used for yourself or as a support for your team.
Well, especially in a game like Daggerheart that does kind of stake itself on connections and on, how do you connect to other characters and how does your character's relationship with them impact play?
Yeah.
And having this elf ability be something that is very much about passing off to somebody else, or it could be about passing off to someone else, depending on need. I just think opens up a lot of moments to be able to build your characters' relationships and further that experience of telling the story together.
Yeah, whether or not you like or dislike the character that is maybe in need of it, right?
Yeah.
It's fun.
The next one up, alphabetically, is the fairy.
All right.
The little bugs. of Daggerheart. Fairies are winged humanoid creatures with insectile features. Their first ability, number 1, is Luckbender. Once per session, after you or a willing ally within close range make an action roll, you can spend 3 hope to re-roll the duality dice.
Oh, fun. Okay.
This is one of those things where I would selectively change it to once per long rest, because I do think the once per session things are their abilities built for a 3 to 4 hour session.
Yeah.
And I think that if you are like us and you're like, hey, Monday, we're gaming.
We're going in 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Conservatively 8 hours.
Yeah.
These are the kind of things that I think that as a GM, if you're going to do long sessions, I recommend you make them a little bit more available.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Having their ability be something they can use once in an 8, 9, 10 hour session, it's a little skimpy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the ability's fun. I do like, again, it isn't about the fairies rolls. Like, you know, that the halfling in D&D has the like reroll ones.
Yeah.
Right? But this being about make someone else roll, I really like that. It's like a silvery barbs that your DM won't hate.
Exactly. And more collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 hope is, again, high.
Yeah.
But this is also one of the things that I've kind of learned as I've been DMing Daggerheart more, where I do want to give the players more opportunities to roll so they can build up resources.
Yeah.
And whereas a year ago when we started playing the beta playtests,
yeah,
I was like, I have too much fear. I now feel like starting fights with a lot of fear is actually fine. I like being able to take over kind of selectively when I want to.
Yeah.
So I think that giving your players more opportunities to roll for random whatever decisions they make so that they have opportunities to build up hope to use things like this are great.
Yeah.
Wings is their second ability. You can fly. He can fly. While flying, you can mark a stress after an adversary makes an attack against you to gain a +2 bonus to your evasion against that attack. Notably different from the playtest.
Yeah.
You don't mark a stress to fly.
Yeah.
You just can fly.
Yeah. Which, like, makes sense. If you're born with wings and can fly, it seems like a lot that it would just stress you out to, you know.
Well, I mean, the physical stress of flight is... It's effort. It's not, you know, it's not free.
I guess, but
especially hovering is harder than like taking off and then gliding.
But when I picture fairies, I picture them flying the majority of the time, right?
I agree with that.
Right. If you are going with like classic fairies, you know, they're always hovering, buzzing, flying around, you know, like a hummingbird. They're not usually on their feet. Yeah. Unless they're pausing for something. And so to me, this makes more sense because I can just have the character constantly in motion and it's not going to cost me resources until someone is taking a swing.
Yes. I am a little bit of the mind that being able to fly is enough of an ability to not also need to be able to get a +2 evasion to against an attack roll while flying.
But flying, like, does flying really give you that much of an edge? Like, people can still reach you when you're flying.
Aarakocras are the most banned race in D&D because flying as a PC at any moment, being able to, drastically changes what the Dungeon Master is able to build puzzles around. Like, the ability to fly just massively impacts the way in which Dungeon Masters have to come up with the problems that their players are solving.
Okay.
Just because it becomes a very... I throw a fight at you, right? And it is 10 orcs with spears. Suddenly has to be 5 orcs with spears and 5 orcs with bows. Because you have the one fairy sorcerer who just takes off in the air and the orcs are just not able to hit them. And so they're kind of a non-combatant because they are outside of the realm of what everyone else is playing.
I think it would be reasonable if you are doing your session 0 and your player's like, I want to play a fairy. I think it is a reasonable ask for the DM to say, okay, you can't fly higher than this altitude without it costing something, right? Like
What do you mean altitude?
like I can't fly higher than like 15 feet above people's heads because because the character still needs to be part of what's going on.
Sure, but even 15 feet is out of melee range of characters on the ground.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you could chuck a spear or a dagger,
Sure.
but yeah.
Sure. For limited damage, you don't get the weapon back, right? Like and look, I have never banned Aarakocras, and I don't mind it. I just know how many DMs do and the reasons why they do.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the Aarakocra of this.
Yeah.
Right.
It definitely warrants a discussion in session 0. I think if your player is like, I want to play a fairy.
And I think that this will be like, I think fairies will be banned from a lot of tables of DMs being like, you can be a fairy if you take the first ability and then mix race with another thing. I don't want to have to imagine the world. And part of it is just, I think, mental energy at the table. For DMs, I think it's a lot of mental energy to have to imagine everything in 3 dimensions all the time.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like, we're on a battle map. This is where everyone is.
Yeah.
We're on a battle map and you're like here.
It's playing chess versus like 3D chess, right? And you've got different levels and tiers, and you're just adding another set of complexities onto the game, which is why, like, when I played a fairy, I don't ever think that I like flew upwards out of range unless I was like spying and it was outside of combat that hadn't begun yet. I might be remembering that wrong.
No, I agree with you. I again, like, it's not something that I have a problem with.
Yeah. But it warrants a discussion.
But yeah, and I just think that it is just going to be the Aarakocra thing again. And the DMs that ban that stuff, I don't think are being unfair, right?
Yeah, they're like, look, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
That really falls within a realm that is just not my strong suit.
Yeah, and look, again, if you're playing high-level D&D, or I'm sure high-level Daggerheart will have similar things. Eventually, almost everyone will be able to fly. Like, there's so many things in... fly is a spell.
Yeah, Seraph...
You know what I mean?
Wing... The Seraph can
Well, we'll
fly.
get to that when we get to that, yeah. But...
coming soon.
I think that is...
Subscribe.
I think that's an ability that you have to mark...
It
doesn't matter. I'm not saying that this is a bad ability.
Yeah.
I just think that being able to fly on its own is a good enough thing that the additional being able to mark a stress to get +2 to your evasion is it's a pretty powerful ability.
It is. It's pretty nice.
When the dwarves...
If you can build a really strong evasion build...
I think that what I'm getting the vibe of right now is that some classes have better abilities than others.
Races.
Some ancestries,
yeah.
And like I would take this over the dwarfs like spend 3 hope to have damage ability any day of the week.
Yeah, if you are building your character based on abilities.
Yeah, min-maxing.
Yeah.
No one ever does that.
I've never done that.
That's true. But you can't do math. Min-maxing would be really hard for you.
It would, yeah. I would have to go watch someone else's YouTube video about how do I build the most OP monk, because I don't know. Yeah, that's not really why I play. And if it is why you play it, that's fine. My brain doesn't work like that. Next up, we have the Fawn. Fawns resemble humanoid goats with curving horns, square pupils, and cloven hooves.
The square pupils are horrifying.
Yeah, we
talked about this last time, and I still think they're horrifying.
Yeah, we looked it up after, and we were like,
yeah,
no, thank you. The first ability you have is Caprian Leap. You can leap anywhere within close range as though you were using normal movement, allowing you to vault obstacles, jump across gaps, or scale barriers with ease. That makes sense.
Yeah. Damn, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can leap small buildings.
Not small buildings.
Close range is 30 feet. You could jump over our house.
You can leap anywhere within close range, not you can jump up the height of close range. You can just vault over things. You cannot straight jump in the air 30 feet. That is not what that means. This says you can vault over obstacles, jump across gaps. Like you could jump up over the chair.
Feet forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My first thought is you can jump 30 feet in the air.
Nope. At least that's not how I would implement this, because that's insane. I would put a cap at like you can't jump over something that's like like 4 feet, maybe 5 feet tall, right? You've got powerful legs. You can hide, you can jump.
Yeah.
But you're not leaping 30 feet directly in the air. It just
That's
says you
tough.
you can jump anywhere within close range. You can leap anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I want to get from here to here and there's just, a river or something, I can jump over
That's
the stream.
An insane leap.
Yeah.
30, that is an insane narrative distance to watch somebody else jump.
Yeah.
If somebody jumped 30, because what is the long jump record, world record? It's 6 feet, right? No, it's gotta be longer.
No.
What is,
God,
where's my
no.
phone? What is the...
The long jump record.
I'm actually really curious.
I'm assuming it's 13 feet.
Long jump world record. 13 feet would be crazy.
I mean...
Whoa! Never mind.
What?
Nope. I take it back. This completely makes sense. This is the most sense that anything can make. You want to know what the world record long jump distance is?
Yeah.
29 feet. 4.25 inches.
Okay, you do get a running start, but damn.
But you're not a goat man.
Fair.
So
literally,
the longest long jumper in the world was able to leap close range.
That's crazy.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I take it back.
You got it.
You're like a superpowered person. Jumping 30 feet makes sense.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
No
I would
problem
say
at
you
all.
can jump 60 feet with a running start at this point.
Wow. All right. Being generous over here. Your next ability is Kick. When you succeed on an attack against a target within melee range, you can mark a stress to kick yourself off them, dealing an extra 2d6 damage and knocking back either yourself or the target to very close range.
An extra 2d6?
Yeah. So you do the what's that maneuver
that.
called? That's not a drop kick, is it? No. Where you literally jump sideways and your feet just...
At low levels...
Uh-huh.
This is gnarly.
Uh-huh.
Some of those low-level creatures, if you roll an extra 5 damage, you're in severe range real fast.
Oh, yeah.
Damn. It, as it doesn't scale crazy.
Yeah,
because at higher levels, the ranges get wider, but
the 2d6 becomes more insignificant as you level up.
That's a really fun level 1 ability.
It is. It's pretty banging. Not gonna lie.
What if I just killed everyone real fast by... full on drop kicking them.
It is called a drop kick, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I that feels very WWE to me, and I love it.
Yes, 100%.
Next up is the Firbolg, who were not cow people until Critical Role, maybe? It's very weird. Firbolg's pre-Critical Role making them cow people apparently were less cow people-like. It's very fascinating.
Okay.
Firbolgs are bovine humanoids now, typically recognized by their broad noses and long drooping ears.
Yeah.
They also like tea quite a bit. Their number 1 ability is Charge. When you succeed on an agility roll to move from far or very far range into melee range with 1 or more targets, you can mark a stress to deal 1d12 physical damage to all targets within melee range.
Melee range of where you start or where you end up? I'm assuming it's where you end up. Or is it anywhere along the way?
That's interesting because it doesn't specify.
Yeah.
I would assume it's where you end up.
Yeah.
Where you stop.
Think.
Because otherwise you could reasonably hit everybody.
Yeah. Just in a line. I mean, I don't know if you can, depending on how much movement you have, I don't know if you can weave like that.
Again, this is where the people who find loopholes in D&D language become nuisances, right? And I just think Daggerheart isn't built for that style of play.
Yeah.
Because the language isn't that specific. Because it is interesting, right? Are you hitting people along the way, or are you... Because it almost makes more sense to be hitting people as you go towards your target
than
it does to, at the end of your target, hit 3 people to go like bum 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 at the end, right?
Yeah.
So like logically, as a player, I would argue that I'm fucking going through people. Like I'm fucking,
Yep. Yeah. And here's the thing. I would say that if someone was in melee range of you while you start this attack, there's simply no way. You need to build up your momentum first.
Yeah.
But I would say once they're in once they're past melee range.
This is where the like trying to add physics to these games can make them really tough to play.
Yeah.
I think they mean at the end of your run.
I think so.
But fuck, do I think I could make a really good argument that I hit 7 people.
Right? I know.
That's interesting.
I love it. And I think that's fun. Again, I think it's a discussion with your DM and whatever you guys work out. But definitely talk about that kind of stuff in session 0.
Yeah. Their second ability is Unshakable. When you would mark a stress, roll a d6. On a result of 6, don't mark it.
It's pretty great.
I love that ability.
I love it so much because every time you
could
roll
use
a dice,
and get...
True.
Yeah.
But I just like being able to roll more dice. And so it's like, oh, I'm rewarded with this 6. Now I don't have to mark a stress. I love that. I think it's very fun.
I think I think both Firbolg abilities are very cool.
And it also puts onus on the player to make sure that they know their abilities. Because if you forget, that's on you.
But the roll a d6 on a 6, you don't mark a stress. It's the kind of ability I like because all it does is allow you to do more things.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Next up, we have the Fungril. Fungrils resemble humanoid mushrooms. So first ability is the Fungril Network. Make an instinct roll. 12?
So roll above a 12.
Gotcha.
That's
that is the
DC
threshold.
Yeah.
I understand. To use your mycelial array to speak with others of your ancestry. On a success, you can communicate across any distance. Your favorite ability.
I like that. No. This is a huge change to it.
Yes.
That makes it great.
Yeah.
Because this is just being able to talk to another Fungril.
Yeah.
The problem I had with the version of it during the beta playtest was that you could like tap into all mushrooms
and just know what's happening.
Things. Yeah. And I was like, that's too. Although in a world where that's true and people know that that's true, people would destroy mushrooms. You know what I mean? Like the bad guys would just be going around ripping mushrooms out of the ground everywhere because you wouldn't want to get spied on. This version of it is like you can talk to a mushroom. Whether or not that's helpful, I think is up to the role. Right?
I mean, it says others of your ancestry. I think they have to be other Fungril. I don't think it can just be like your...
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Your commonplace mushrooms.
So like, if you don't... I wouldn't allow my players to be like, I reach out to a mushroom that knows. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, who is it? Why do they know?
Yeah.
How do you know them? Right?
Yeah. How can you tell that they know?
You open your mind up to the mycelium network and there's 50 million Fungrils on it. Who do you want to talk to? Yeah. And I would work with my players to make sure that they have people that they can talk to.
You can't use phone a friend to phone everybody. You have to phone a friend.
The players have to be specific, and that's the difference. It's not just being like, do the mushrooms nearby know how to solve the puzzle? Yeah.
No, this is actually an instance where they got more specific, and I think it really helps the ability.
And also, kind of will inform world building of the game. Every kingdom in every world of your Daggerheart games is probably going to have a mushroom. Yeah. Because there's going to be someone whose job it is to be the like telephone that's going to be a prominent position in a king's court, is to be like, this is my Fungril who calls. They tap into the mycelium network and they call on my behalf. Yeah. Like those are it's an ability that is limited compared to what it was in the playtest in a way that I think makes it much easier on the DM, but also opens up some opportunities for some storytelling and some world building in Daggerheart worlds that is very different than other worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig it. And is a more role-play focused instead of combat focused, which I love.
And again, relationship building.
Yes.
It is important for your character to talk to other Fungrils they meet because they can call them later.
Exactly.
Like those are the kind of things that give your players opportunities to build, like forge relationships within the game.
Yeah. The second ability is Death Connection. While touching a corpse that died recently, You can mark a stress to extract one memory from the corpse related to a specific emotion or sensation of your choice.
I like that.
It's fun. I don't know what recently means. Again, I think that's up to the DM.
Yeah.
Right? You know, is an hour recent? Is a day recent?
I would say...
Like, what are the lifespan of mushrooms and what is recent to a mushroom?
I would give you like 2 weeks.
Damn.
Yeah. Like a body that would be in the like throes of decay.
Oh, I would have been like less than 24 hours.
That's interesting. I think that I don't know. I think this is an ability that offers up a lot of opportunities for me to be like you stumble upon a house and you find a dead body.
Yeah.
You don't know how long it's been dead. That doesn't matter so much to me. For me, what it would be from a role play and like a narrative standpoint is I would give the players the option to pull a memory out of them.
Mm-hmm.
What is the sensation that you're going for? And depending on what my players role play in that moment is going to tell me what they get.
Yeah.
And like for me, like the players will have an opportunity to help solve the mystery if they go for a sensation relevant, or they can fail. And it's those are the kind of puzzles that I like.
Yeah.
Where like, if you choose the right sensation in this moment, this session will be an hour shorter because you're going to really leap over a couple of things that you need to reveal.
Yeah.
I like both. I think that can I say this for a sec?
Yeah.
I think that these are both really cool role play abilities.
Yes.
And I think those are more interesting to me than the mechanic ones.
Me too.
The dwarf abilities, I don't think they're bad. I think mathematically they're good and they make sense and they work within the game.
And it's good to have.
I don't really want them.
Abilities.
I want this.
Yeah.
I want to, and it's the same thing with D&D where like the D&D game doesn't matter as much to me as the like. Or the combat doesn't matter as much to me as the roleplay stuff.
Yes, the storytelling.
These abilities are more interesting to me as a player because those are the moments I want to have abilities that make them fun.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I have a question about how you would implement this as a DM.
Yeah.
Would you reveal that this corpse is able to be communicated with, or perhaps would it manifest as though they try and then they only mark a stress if it's successful because they can't maybe... Like, you don't reveal the information of how long the corpse has been dead because you can't tell. Like, do you think that
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Do you think that the stress is marked whether if it fails?
Is it it's a roll?
No.
No, I wouldn't make them roll for it. Or I wouldn't.
No, I mean.
No. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I would tell them immediately
if it would work.
I think that because it's an ancestry ability, I think that they, as a Fungril, they know. You know whether or not this body's too decayed.
Yeah.
Because it's your thing. Yeah, no, I would just always tell them. That's
Okay.
not, I can understand.
I'm not saying that there's a correct way. I just think it's interesting that this card can be interpreted as like, well, if they check and it doesn't work, because some DMs like to give more information, some people like to give less, and I think that both are valid ways of playing. And so if you want to have it like work or not after they've already tried, would you then have them take that stress? Like I think there's different ways to implement this.
There's no work or not. It just says that it happens, right? And so I think that if you were like, you mark a stress, nothing happens, that just sucks.
That's what I mean.
That doesn't, that's, and I've done this, and so I'm calling myself out when I do this, but it's kind of like in Candela Obscura, when I was like, there's a door, and you guys are like, fuck, what do we do? I guess I'd like try the door, and I'm like, yeah, it's unlocked. And you're like, oh, well, fuck.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny, because I was trying to tell the story of like, well, you come into this room, why would the door be locked on the side that you're on? I just figured you guys would figure that. You guys would just assume that. And you guys looked at the door for like 3 minutes. It might have even been longer in real time. I think when I edited it down to like 3 minutes.
Maybe.
And you guys were like talking about the door for so long. And I was like, it's just but I didn't want to, as a DM, be like, it's an unlocked door. Because how would you know that it's unlocked?
Yeah.
And so it was one of those weird moments where I was like, once you guys touched the door, you knew immediately it was unlocked.
Yeah.
It was just that you guys talked about it for so long. This is one of those abilities where like, it can be just kind of a letdown to like, let the players sit there for like 3 minutes of table time being like, oh, what sensation should we talk about? They go through that whole process. They do all the talking. They have all the fun of that. And the DM's response is, oh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
There's no point in that to me. I think that it's just kind of a letdown. And so even though I think it doesn't make as much sense, now I have in recent games been like, there's an unlocked door in front of you. Not because it makes sense. I don't think that you walk up to a door and know whether it's locked or not, but because if that door isn't a thing, I don't want you to spend time on it.
Right.
Because it actually just kind of sucks when you find out it's unlocked.
Yeah.
It's not fun, right? And as I've been playing more and more games, I really do think more about fun. I've been trying to have more fun at the table.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means that my combats have been a little too easy, and I'm working on that. Because I don't want them to be health pits, and I don't want them to be, like, impossible.
Yeah.
I am trying to up fun, though. And so that balance is hard in combat. But in something like this, I would just be like, they are decayed. If you come back tomorrow, you won't be able to get a memory. This is your only opportunity. Like, I would do something more like that. So
Yeah,
that
I like that.
feel like, or I would be like, you find a dead body. You can hear the police going door to door, banging on doors. You have moments here. And I would put pressure on them to decide quickly what sensation they're going with.
Fair.
I would do more things like that to have it be a little bit more fun. And again, I keep using the word fun, but I'm trying to...
That's what this is about.
I know.
We do this to have fun, and some people forget.
There was a time, I think, even in early Astral Dusk, where I was worried about not winning. Not because I wanted to win, but because I wanted people to think I was a good DM. Sure. And I wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, I was learning, and I'm still learning. It's a process of life, getting better at it, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't prioritize fun, and there are moments in, like, some of those sessions of Astral Dusk where I don't think I did a good job because my mindset was wrong, and I acknowledge that. Like, it's something that, like, I've watched those episodes back and be like, this could have been better because it could have been more entertaining. Mm-hmm. And I've really tried to work towards that. And so, yeah, that's a long answer to your question, but for me, like, no, I would not allow them to spend time worrying about it and then tell them that nothing happened. I just don't. Yeah. I don't think there's value in that.
Yeah, I think that is fair.
Yeah. Next up is Galapas, the turtle folk of this world. Mm-hmm. Galapa resemble, they are not Galapas. Galapa is the plural. Resemble anthropomorphic turtles with large domed shells into which they can retract.
Nice.
Can you guess what their abilities are going to be based around?
Defense.
Ability 1. Can you imagine if it was like slow? You move extremely slow.
Oh my God.
It sucks to... No. Shell is the first ability. Gain a bonus to your damage thresholds equal to your proficiency.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Damn.
Yeah, that's great.
Damn. Because that's like...
That scales really well.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it...
well enough.
I think your proficiency can be a 4. Right? I think your maximum proficiency is a +4. So it doesn't scale crazy. It's an ability that
4 is still...
I think is very useful.
Pretty good.
But, well, yeah, especially because if it's like 28 and 30... You take your severe from 20 to 32, say. Yeah. That's pretty great. Yeah. This is something that I don't think is broken. I think that it is... I think that works. Mathematically, I haven't done the math, but it feels like that makes sense. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yep. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good amount. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. It's passive. It's not something you use. Yeah. Unlike their second ability, retract. Mark a stress to retract into your shell. While in your shell, you have resistance to physical damage. You have disadvantage on action rolls, and you can't move.
Disadvantage on action rolls is hilarious because it means you can still, like, poke a sword out, I guess.
Yeah. Like, or you can, like, cast a spell.
Yeah.
I kind of love the idea of, like, a
caster who just from inside their shell does all the magic.
And it gives you disadvantage, but you're, like, poking your head out and shooting things.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that's fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are both weirdly those feel, yeah, I don't know.
I like it.
The retract one has a lot of roleplay potential in very funny ways.
Oh, for sure.
I think that if you're a funny player, like if you're good at making your table laugh, I think there's 1,000,001 ways to make retract like comedy gold. Yeah. And I approve of those abilities.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
And if you're a person who maybe like forgets to keep track of those abilities, having the first one, which is just a passive thing that you add to your sheet, it takes one little thing off your plate.
Especially on a service like Demiplane that I'm assuming automatically adds it for you.
I think so. Yeah.
I haven't used Demiplane, so I don't know.
I haven't played a Galapa on Demiplane, but yeah, it tends to do all the math for you.
Yeah.
Next up,
I think those are both good abilities.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Yeah.
We have Giants. I feel like, I will say, while we're like, I think halfway through this, the first time that we did this, there were some abilities that we were like, oh my God, this is too much. Or some abilities we were like, maybe, I don't know. Everything feels far better balanced this time around. And I like that the game is different than the beta that they put out, and how much time, care, attention to detail, all those things have gone into creating this.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So giants are towering humanoids with broad shoulders, long arms, and 1 to 3 eyes. So you can pick, I guess, whichever you want.
I'm not gonna lie. It's Daggerheart. You can kind of pick no matter what your race is.
I guess you could.
Even if you read like the Ancestry section
my
of the
elf
book,
has 3 eyes. Sure, if you want.
My Clank is a wooden druid creature, or my Clank is a mech from space, or you know what I mean? Like, this game is just built for you to be able to do whatever you want with it. But
that's fair. First up, we have Endurance. Gain additional hit point slot at character creation. Pretty nice. You can just take 1 extra damage.
Yeah.
It doesn't scale at all.
It doesn't really need to, though, right? Like, you're just always going to have an extra hit point.
Yeah, that hit point is always going to be worth the same amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Again, another like passive ability that maybe if you are a newer player who wants to keep track of less things.
Also, I think it's something that's great in a one-shot.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Some of these abilities I do think are less good in campaigns. Yeah. That one, less good in a campaign to me.
But for a one-shot,
doesn't give me a lot of role playability.
Yeah. Next up is Reach. Treat any weapon, ability, spell, or other feature that has a melee range as though it has a very close range instead.
Yeah.
Because you got them long arms.
Mm-hmm.
Again, less role play abilities.
But here's the thing: the giant inherently has so much potential.
Yes.
It's not a little too big.
Yes.
Thing is very fun to play.
It's not baked into the mechanics of abilities that are given on the cards. It is just inherent in the Ancestry.
But the reach thing kind of is, right? Like because the reach, yes, in this case it's a weapon, but mechanically it's for weapons. But like it's also like you can reach the top shelf. You know what I mean?
What does that feel like?
I guess I am a giant. It's pretty great. I did get an extra health point at character creation.
Really?
Yeah, I've been through a lot and I'm still here.
Fair enough.
I have so many dents and broken bones and I'm A-okay.
That is actually fair.
It's sad how true that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like if I am hurt, I will just kind of keep going.
Sure.
I'm like in pain and I just kind of am like, well, I guess we're doing it just despite it.
Keep trucking on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, the reach thing's really cool.
It's fun. Yeah. It's not like my favorite thing in the world, but
it's better
I like it.
In D&D with opportunity attacks. Like the extending your melee range further out. It also means things can move within your melee range a little bit easier. But the ability for people to have to be 15 feet or more away from you to not take an opportunity attack from you is always really powerful. But even here, like there's so many ways in which I think that people are going to use that ability to be menaces at the table. Next up is the race that will cause me to have some very weird sexual thoughts. The goblins. Some of the goblin art.
Wow. All right. Oh, you're talking about
the Daggerheart goblins.
Yeah.
Daggerheart goblins hit different, okay?
Sure, yeah.
The little boy in me whose sexual awakening was Twi'leks in Star Trek or Star Wars. I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah,
I was thinking about green-skinned things, and the Twi'leks and then the green lady from Star Trek both popped in my head at the same time.
The green lady from Star Trek?
Yeah, that Kirk sleeps with. Don't worry about it.
Oh, old Trek. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I grew up on.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Next Generation until I was like in high school. I was raised on like old like Kirk and Spock Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Goblins. And also there's the green lady comes back in. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, they're small humanoids, easily recognizable by their large eyes and massive membranous ears.
What a word.
I know, I love it. They're sure-footed is their first ability. You ignore disadvantage on agility rolls.
Oh, okay.
Damn.
So no one, yeah, you can't be disadvantaged.
I like that a lot, especially for like rogues or like rangers. Because of the way in which if you want to run away in a fight, if you want to run like 55 feet away from an enemy,
Yeah.
you have to roll an agility check to see if you succeed at that run. The ability to do that in rough terrain, but not like this is a great ranger ability.
Yeah.
Great for someone who needs to create distance on a battlefield.
Yeah.
A lot of ways to use that. Their second ability is Danger Sense. Once per rest, mark a stress to force an adversary to reroll an attack against you or an ally within very close range.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
Yeah, the once per rest thing is interesting. Mm-hmm. It is a limitation that Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't... I don't know.
You would want it to use it more often?
I don't know if I would, because I do think that it would get annoying if it's every time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, maybe once per rest is the right amount.
Yeah.
I just think maybe...
It's like a stroke of luck.
Yeah, I think that the language would be too long, but I think there's a version of this ability where it would be like, the first one you do is 1 stress, the second one you do is 2 stress, the third one you do is 3 stress, and then that resets at a rest. So you can like keep doing it. You can keep using your danger sense, but it gets more costly each time.
More. That's interesting. Okay.
Because once per rest seems infrequent, but
it can be
it's a good
short
ability.
Rest. It doesn't have to be a long rest as well.
It just kind of sucks if it's your like, this is your ability, and they roll, they still hit. And you're like, oh, well, I can't use that again. I just kind of like...
Which I think is why, again, it is short rest. Because, like, taking a short rest is not terribly difficult.
Maybe if it was, like, once per rest and it was to re-roll that attack at disadvantage. You know what I mean? So that, like... I don't know. I think that... I don't quite think it is quite powerful enough given some of the other... things abilities.
I think we're gonna have to try playing with it.
Yeah, and I think that I would boost that one a little bit somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's a good ability, because it is sort of Silvery Barbsy in a way, right?
Yeah, or luck.
But Silvery Barbs even has that second thing where you give advantage to somebody else.
Yes.
It just this Danger Sense to me feels like it needs something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, a little extra something.
Just a little sauce.
Next up, we have Halflings. They're small humanoids with large hairy feet and prominent rounded ears. Their first ability is Luckbringer. At the start of each session, everyone in your party gains a hope.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm a fan.
Again, depending on how long your sessions are, you might want to tweak that, right?
I don't think you do. Not with hope. I don't think you need more. Because over the session you're just gonna naturally
you're gonna build it up anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do think I think it's a fun like you sit down to play. Hey, my character cracks a funny joke. You know, what about second breakfast? Boom, hope. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's fair.
I do think I would push my player to role play why. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just because I'm a mean DM like that. And I'm like, okay, so what does your character do to afford that to everyone?
Well, yeah.
And I would make it hard, obviously.
Yeah.
But just I would kind of make...
You're not going to say no to whatever thing they offer is, but it's just they need to offer something.
But, you know, this is a role play opportunity.
Yeah.
Take the role play opportunity. Do the role play.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Next up is Internal Compass. When you roll a 1 on your hope die, you can re-roll it.
Okay.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
It's the same one as D&D. And it's the one that they previously had.
Yeah. Oh, it might be.
Yeah, because the D&D one is when you roll ones. You can roll ones on your D20 rolls. So, yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love that this has 2 positives. One is that you'll probably get a higher number, better chance of success, but also you might also get a hope.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a possibility of 2 bonuses or maybe just 1. You know, maybe the roll is higher, but it's still a higher fear die, which is still okay.
Yeah. It says you may reroll it, right?
You can re-roll it. Yeah, you do not have to. So if you crit on double 1s, you do not have to forfeit the crit.
Yeah.
Which,
no, absolutely.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, I think those are good abilities. Definitely useful.
Mm-hmm.
The next ancestry on the board is the human. The human. They are most easily recognized by their dexterous hands, rounded ears, and bodies built for endurance. Are we built for endurance?
Yeah, remember, humans can run faster than horses.
Only over long distances.
Endurance.
Except in Attack on Titan. Their first ability is high stamina. Gain an additional stress slot at character creation.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I don't know. I feel like humans are easily stressed out. But maybe that's just
but
all
I think
my
that's
friends.
our capacity to deal with stress.
I feel like my capacity to deal with stress is very low.
Yeah, because shit's stressful.
That's not true. I actually think that we deal with stress very well. I'm trying to make a joke, but I actually don't think it applies to us. Adaptability is their second ability. When you fail a roll that utilizes one of your experiences, you can mark a stress to reroll.
Oh, if you use an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That feels like a very specific circumstance.
Depending on how much you use your experiences.
Yes, exactly. And how versatile your experiences are. Because some experiences are very particular and some are less so and can be applied to a lot of different situations depending on, you know, how you are able to justify it and how nice your DM is.
One of the things I find interesting about having an extra health point for the giants or an extra stress point for the humans is that in some ways they're kind of interchangeable. They're kind of the same ability because when you fill your stress, you start taking health anyway.
Sure, but there are certain abilities and cards and things that require stress.
Sure, so the human one is actually better.
Yeah.
The human one is the human one is better than the giant one in a way because stress points kind of become hit points at a certain point.
Right.
And so there is an interesting...
But if you don't have things that require stress, then having a hit... it is circumstantial, and I think that it does lend itself to a lot of thought when building the character.
I think that these things are going to be things that are... Some of these abilities are going to be kind of in the background.
Yep.
I don't think you're going to think about the fact that you have an extra stress slot that much. I think for people who want to min-max this game, these are going to be the nitty-gritty things that they really use to kind of break Daggerheart open.
And I'm so curious to watch the videos of the people who do.
Yeah.
Because because my brain doesn't work that way, but I'm interested to see, like, because there are certain abilities in other games where it's like, look, this one is just the best mathematically.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see in terms of Daggerheart what conclusions people come to based on these abilities.
Yeah, and when I think about it, the adaptability thing, roleplay opportunities. I think encouraging players to want to use their experiences is better than not.
Yes, I agree. 100%. Next up,
there's a lot of ancestries in this game.
Yes, there are. When we said I think this happened to us last time. I think we're going to do all the ancestries and communities in a video. And then we're like, never mind. And I think that that's going to happen again.
It might.
It
might.
We might do communities next
time.
Week. Because we're still...
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Hell yeah. Because there's a lot of cards left. Infernace. All right. Our little...
Infernace?
Yeah.
Oh, there is a second N. I thought it was Infernace.
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I've been pronouncing that wrong.
Infernace, yeah.
I was like Infernace, but...
That also, I dig that too.
Infernace is where Sweeney Todd's victims went.
Furnace, yes. Maybe Infernace have cousins called Infernace that are like the smaller version or something. Anyways, they're humanoids who possess sharp canine teeth, pointed ears, and horns. They are the descendants of demons from the circles below. So they're the gays in this game. It's the pointy teeth, or pointed ears.
I mean, the number of our friends who have paid to get pointed teeth is crazy.
I would do it.
I know you would.
I would do it in a heartbeat.
We just had a friend get it done.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I want it so bad. Anyways, first ability is Fearless. When you roll with fear, you can mark 2 stress to change it into a roll with hope instead. Very useful in combat.
Wow. And out of combat.
I mean, yes,
Like
if the stakes are high.
Like dinner scene or like a masquerade ball.
Yeah.
There's so many times. Honestly,
it's a great ability.
I have a feeling that is an ability I would use more outside of combat than in it. Personally.
I think that in combat, you are able to see the immediate benefits of it because you keep initiative. Right. And so I think that if you're looking for that immediate gratification, yes. I think if you're playing the long game, it's more in role play situations.
I think that if someone is like near death, I agree with you in combat.
Mm-hmm.
But for me in TTRPG combat, I don't mind failing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want the combat to kind of have an ebb and a flow, and like I want there to be stakes.
Yeah.
Whereas the roles in TTRPGs where I feel the most like I need this to succeed are usually roles that have to do with sneaking in or like avoiding. I would rather use it to avoid combat than to
avoid like, consequences.
To hit one hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and it doesn't help you hit. You don't change the number of the dice.
Oh,
the roll is a pass or a fail regardless. It just depends on if
it swaps the hope and the fear.
No.
Yeah.
No. It doesn't swap it. It just says it now is a roll with hope.
Which is the same. That's what
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
It swaps.
Yeah, sorry. It just doesn't change the number of the roll at all. So whether or not it is a pass or a fail is still up to the die.
Yeah, in my head it swaps the roll and the fear dice, but the numbers stay the same.
Which makes sense. Right. Like you could definitely think of it that way as well.
No, I love that. Like that to me, and again, I am gay. I will play Infernace, even though I will always kind of laugh that it's just Infernace.
Yeah.
But
it's like
and it's like Avernus. Yeah.
Infernace. It's great.
That's delicious to me. That is like one of my favorite abilities in the game.
It's pretty banging.
Of the ones we've talked about today, I think that might be my favorite.
It's the most I'm excited to use in gameplay.
Well,
you know?
and because you can be like, oh my god, succeed with fear, and the DM's like, I'm gonna do something deliciously evil, and you're like, I'm gonna mark 2 stress.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Next up is Dread Visage. You have advantage on rolls to intimidate hostile creatures.
Oh, okay.
Another roleplay ability.
I wish that it was just to intimidate creatures, not specifically hostile. Intimidate your friends.
You can make your friends hostile.
Yes, yeah, it's not enemies, it's hostile.
Yeah, I would play fast and loose with the term hostile because I think it's just more fun.
Because sometimes you got to intimidate someone you're not antagonizing.
Yeah.
You just sometimes you gotta get a better price.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I dig it.
Next up we have Claris's favorite class.
I don't know.
The Qataris.
Infernus might be, but...
Yeah, but I mean, you literally are the girl on the card.
I know. I'm a cat lady.
Qatari are feline humanoids with retractable claws, vertically slit pupils, and high triangular ears. Their first ability is Feline Instincts. When you make an agility roll, you can spend 2 hope to reroll your hope die.
Yeah.
It's a little specific, but it's good.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember if I ever actually used this in our one-shot.
I have no idea.
I don't think I did.
Were you playing a Qatari?
Yeah. Katara the Qatari?
Oh, in the I was thinking about penultimates.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
In the...
I didn't really make you guys do any agility rolls.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is an ability where you kind of have to do things where it comes up.
Or
like run across the battlefield or something like that.
With this ancestry, you might be better off picking a class that lends itself to agility stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And this happens in other systems as well, where just like these two things just play well together. They play better together than if you were to choose something else. And yeah, that happens. But
there is an interesting thing about this kind of ability, though, where one of the interesting things about the math of rolling 2d12s is abilities that make you reroll your hope die. is it worth marking 2 hope, to spend 2 hope, to try and re-roll, not to succeed, but just to get more hope? Like take this, you roll a 2 and a 1. The 2 is fear, the 1 is hope. Is it worth it to pay 2 hope to try and fail with hope? Because you're probably still not,
Depending
even if you
on the
roll
situation.
a 12, you only get to a 14, that might still fail.
Again, depending on the situation, similar to the Infernace ability
Yeah.
of failing the roll has its consequences, but failing it with fear is like extra bad. And if you can mitigate the consequences of this roll, it's agility roll, so it can't be applied to every scenario. But if you are scaling a cliff and you fail with fear, failing with hope is still better.
That's true. And then their second ability is Retracting Claws. Make an agility roll to scratch a target within melee range. On a success, they become temporarily vulnerable.
Yeah, very fun.
Yeah, interesting.
I was kind of, I wanted to like ask you about this in session 0, and then I kind of adjusted what I wanted to play, but I was like, had this idea of pairing the glowing rings with the claws and kind of having having them work in tandem in a way that was fun. But I like having that like natural weapon.
Yeah.
To use.
Yeah, the temporarily thing, it's gonna take me a long time to get used to it.
Yeah.
To being like, this person is vulnerable. Till when? Temporarily, it's just one of those things where
isn't that till you end it with fear?
I think that's one way for it to end.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just one of those things about Daggerheart that I think that they've done a great job using countdowns in character abilities, right? I think there's like the countdowns for the like Guardian's ability and things like that. One of the things that it's not bad game design, right? I'm not like criticizing the game for it. I'm saying that I don't know how to use it yet, is the temporarily stuff. Mm-hmm. Because on one hand, the most sensible thing for me to do as the DM is to just use my fears immediately to always end those things. But that's not fun.
Well, and you'll run out of fear.
Rarely.
Maybe. I haven't DM'd.
I don't run out of fear in this game very often.
Yeah, I hear you.
Like, on a mechanics level, I find I gain fear, enough fear to do whatever I want, generally. And so ending all of these abilities right when they happen is an acceptable use of... And so maybe my rule as a DM will that I'll only end abilities when the spotlight turns me when someone rolls with fear. And like that might be how I play it. But
yeah.
Mechanically, I think it's one of those things that like the people who do play these games to win, there's a way to do it that isn't fun. Again, it goes back to like what's fun.
Yeah.
And it isn't fun for me to just end it.
Yeah.
But it's also not fun to just
let it go
let
on
it be
and
there
on
forever.
And yeah.
And so it asks, in my opinion, it kind of asks a lot of the DM to be the fun police. In a way.
In a
way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of have to be like, this has gone on enough that the player got enough out of it that I'm not being an ass by ending it.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a weird equation to have running in the back of your mind while all of the other things of DMing are going on. You have to be like, oh yeah, that spell's gone on enough that they won't think I'm a douche for...
Yeah.
It's just an interesting... It's one of those interesting things that Daggerheart puts in the DM's lap that I think honestly will be hard for some DMs to interact with, that I kind of like. But I am cognizant of the fact that I think there are going to be DMs, and I've already seen criticisms of the game, right? Of like people being like, I don't like the work that this game asks DMs to do.
Sure.
I think that this is one of those things. Some DMs are going to really be like, just tell me how long it lasts.
Yeah.
I have so many things to keep track of. Let me keep track of that instead of having to like be the person who decides.
Yeah.
And then have to like argue with players about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things about Daggerheart that's so different from other games that I've played, at least. There's probably other games that have similar systems, but
yeah,
it's all you.
All right, we've got orcs. Orcs are humanoids, most easily recognized by their square features and boar-like tusks that protrude from their lower jaw. Hot.
I love orcs. I'm a big orc fan.
The first ability is Sturdy. When you have 1 hit point remaining, attacks against you have disadvantage.
Disadvantage?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I like that.
Yeah, like a extreme self-preservation type of
It's one of those
method.
things where it's like if you're taking a major damage and then you die before you get to 1 hit point, that sucks.
True. Yeah.
This is one of those times though. This is another ability where, because when you hit 0, you hit 0 in this game.
Yeah.
This ability is not something you're going to use that much. Like, once you get to 1 hit point, things have gotten really dire.
Yeah, hopefully you're not at 1 hit point for long. So, yeah, that one is tough because on one hand, it could save your ass like nothing else could. On the other hand, how often are you going to utilize this?
In a world where you have death saves, like if Daggerheart had the death save system from D&D, this ability would be so fun because it would come up all the time.
Yeah, but how often are you really going to be hanging around at 1 hit point?
Like, this is a game where you have to heal people before they get to 1.
Yeah.
This isn't a save your healing potions and shove them in your unconscious friend's mouths games, right?
Yeah.
And so it is fascinating to be like, if you're at 1 hit point, you're already in an imminent death range at all times. And that is, it's fun. Like, it kind of makes the game a little, I think players have to be a little bit more tactically minded than D&D.
Yeah.
Where, like, the, like, spray and pray, we might all drop at some point, but we'll get back up. Someone will have healing word and it'll be enough to get us back on our feet.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in this game.
Nope.
And so it's an ability that, like, might save you from death, but, like, fuck, if you're there, it's already tense.
Yep. Second ability is Tusks. When you succeed on an attack against a target within melee range, you can spend a hope to gore the target with your tusks, dealing an extra 1d6 damage.
Jesus.
Yeah.
They're not
fuck them up real good.
Big.
Yeah.
That's just biting someone.
Yeah, it's basically like a headbutt.
Like, when you gore someone with, like, tusks as, like, a warthog, you're goring, but your tusks are here. This means that you're shoving them.
Yeah.
Wait.
You're just biting them.
If you really think about logistically what this means, it means that someone attacks you. What is the exact thing? When you succeed on attack against a target. So you have just swung your sword at someone and then you get your mouth in really close and you just, like, ram your bottom lip into their body.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense to me as like a headbutt. Like you can, like, hit somebody and then headbutt them. But specifically the lower jaw is, well, I don't know. As a human, that sounds very uncomfortable, but maybe orcs are used to it,
Yeah. It just, in my head, I'm, like, picturing you running around the bat. Is it once per session?
No. I don't
my God, no,
think
you're
so.
just doing it all the time. You're just fucking, like, biting. You're just getting fucking everybody's blood up in you.
When you succeed, you can spend a hope to do this.
I hope you have a great immune system, buddy.
God.
Next up is I think it's a great ability.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the Fawn one, right? But 1d6. Actually, it's only 1d6. It's actually worse.
It's only 1d6 and it doesn't, like, scale, but it's
the Fawn one was 2d6 though.
You can spend a hope every time you hit.
Yeah, but I think it wasn't the Fawn one also.
It was the drop kick one that you're talking about?
When you succeed on attacking against a target, you can mark a stress to kick yourself off of them, dealing an extra 2d6 damage and getting the Fawn one is
I mean, I think hope is easier to get than clearing stress.
That's a good point. Cuz if you succeeded on an attack, there's a good chance you're getting a free hope then anyway.
Perhaps, yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Ooh, that's you know what? That's a really good point.
Yeah.
You solved it for me. We're so close to the end here. Ribbits. Ribbits. Everyone's favorite ancestry so far. People are obsessed with the ribbits. They resemble anthropomorphic frogs with protruding eyes and webbed hands and feet. They are amphibious. That's their first ability. You can breathe and move naturally underwater. Niche.
Yes, niche.
Very niche. Not something I would take for a one-shot.
No, unless you knew it was like in Atlantis or some shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. It's a good ability. It opens up a lot of like opportunities, like, you know, going to
Yeah, but if you're
Fishman
like
Island or something. But
going to a cavern in a desert,
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
yeah, I do think it's one of those abilities that you're just not going to use that much. Going underwater, is hard for a lot of other players. If you're doing like a pirate campaign, this is great, right? But the other problem with it is underwater combat is so hard to run.
Oh God, yeah.
It's so hard to keep track of where people
Yeah.
are at in a like underwater thing.
If I were trying to make like, because so far that is my least favorite ability because I think it is so niche. I think that the way that you might be able to beef it up just a teeniest little bit in terms of like role play is maybe if the Ribbits always know where fresh water is nearby, like a sense of fresh water. So if your party is adventuring and needs supplies of some kind, you have a role-playing ability that helps with your navigation or surrounding or whatever it is. Because I just think that, yeah, if you're like wandering through the woods, if you're doing dungeon delves, there's a lot of situations where that's very not useful.
But it's also great for like sneaking into a castle through a moat, or
yeah, again,
you know,
super
like there's
niche.
a lot of times where you could use it. But yeah, I agree. It is one of those things where it's a little bit. And some of these are abilities. It is that interesting thing, right? Some of these are abilities where it's like you can use this pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And some of these are like probably never. Which the next one, I think the balance of the Ribbit is, I think the next one's actually pretty great. Long tongue. You can use your long tongue to grab onto things within close range. Mark a stress to use your tongue as a finesse close weapon that deals D12 physical damage using your proficiency.
D12 is crazy.
D12 plus you could do 3D12 at a certain level.
Yeah.
So you can mark a stress and do 3D12 damage, 4D12 damage.
Yeah. In close range.
Within 30 feet.
Yeah. 30
I understand that frog tongues are
wild.
long.
Yeah.
I think that that's too long. I think that's too far.
I would have done very close.
I would have done very close as well. I would have given 15. Yeah.
But hey, I'll take 30 as a player. Fuck it.
But like if I think about a 30-foot tongue,
yeah, that sounds
that's
awful.
awful.
Yeah,
that's just
terrifying.
disgusting.
Yeah.
It's so go outside and like walk 30, figure out how far 30 feet is. That's like longer than our driveway.
That's like 5 of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the tongue.
Yeah. Yeah, I
you
don't
can
like
also
it.
grab onto things within 30 feet. It's not just that you can like hit something within 30 feet. It's that you can grab something 30 feet away. This is another
dexterous
thing.
tongue.
This is another thing that puzzle-wise is a little broken. Like
Right.
solving dungeon puzzles, being able to grab something 30 feet away can be a little bit broken.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I think
But
that's fair.
I also think that it leads to some very funny opportunities as a DM where I put something within reach, but it tastes like
terrible.
Or there's like acid on it, and the Ribbit like
It's poisoned.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think that I would punish my players with this to be like sometimes that ability will solve the puzzle for you.
Yeah, and sometimes
the people who put the puzzle there knew that Ribbits existed.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of damage. D12 is crazy.
It's pretty bonkers, yeah.
And the thing about it that makes it extra powerful is that if you're using it to grab things, there's no cost. You only mark a stress when you're using it as a weapon. The rest of the time, you can just do that constantly. You can be fucking
just be
Jar Jar
grabbing-
Binks at the dinner table with
Pretty
no
much.
Qui-Gon Jinn there to fucking catch your tongue between his chopsticks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or no, I think he does it in his fingers.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Why did I add chopsticks?
I don't know.
There's no underwear in space. Why would there be chopsticks? Yeah, those are fun abilities. Ribbits are great. I just want to play Ribbit. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
care.
They are pretty great. We are on our last Ancestry
We're
card.
going to do communities next week.
I agree. I think, yeah.
We're at like over an hour. Yeah, well over an hour.
Yes.
Communities will be next week.
Yeah, it's fine. It just means that we're here longer talking about more
There's
Daggerheart.
so few communities, which is what's tough.
Yeah, but I think that
We'll
those
pair them with something.
will.
We'll find a pairing for these.
Well, I think that those will spark fun discussions about like using like when they come into play
Okay.
and how to build the character with them
Right.
in mind. I'm not too worried. And hey, it doesn't have to be over an hour every time. We say that. Last is Simeia. Simeia resemble anthropomorphic monkeys and apes with long limbs and prehensile feet. Your first ability is Natural Climber. You have an advantage on agility rolls that involve balancing and climbing. Makes sense?
Yeah. This is one of those abilities where it's like the Qatari one, but worse, which is interesting.
Oh, sure.
Like from a balance perspective, the Qatari getting all agility rolls and Simia's getting agility rolls when climbing in the same ability slot is fascinating.
Right. That involve balancing and climbing.
It's just the Qatari one, but less useful.
Yeah,
because the Qatari one also applies to climbing.
Yeah, because it's agility.
Or no, wait, was there a? Maybe it was when you're moving far range. Actually, let me look at that again.
Yeah. It's
no, when you make an agility roll, you can spend 2 hope to reroll your hope die. Oh, no, that is different.
Yeah. So it's advantage
What was I thinking of?
or rerolling that specific dice.
Yeah.
So they're similar but different.
But it's also 2 hope.
Yeah.
So yeah, different.
Then the next ability is Nimble. Gain a permanent +1 bonus to your evasion at character creation.
I'm not gonna lie, Simia's kind of
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Look, a better evasion is always going to be useful for sure.
100%, yeah.
But there's not a lot of opportunities there for.
If you want to climb on things all the time, there's some roleplay opportunities because you're going to be better at them.
Yeah, but nothing that feels super juicy.
Yeah, the Fungril, the
good for a one shot.
Like there's some of those that I feel the Halfling. The ones that I feel like there's more opportunities to like benefit things outside of combat
are the ones we're more excited
and our
about.
Roleplayed, yeah. Some of the ones are just like you get a +1.
Yeah, which again useful for sure.
Yeah.
But less exciting.
I do think though that like mechanically none of these are so necessary that I'm going to play one race more than others, which is what's nice.
Yeah, and there are different perks for heritages and classes and all of these things that your race your ancestry doesn't have to have all of the roleplay opportunities. You can create those through other cards, abilities, backstory, all that jazz.
Well, the ability to mix and match them is fun. I think the ability to mix and match them. I do think that some of these ancestries have much better first slot ones and much better second slot ones.
Yeah,
and so
being able to mix and
pairings
match
that you can make in the mixed race thing is going to be a big part of this game.
Definitely,
especially for people who want to have very strong characters.
Yeah.
Because I do think there's going to be ways in which you can kind of get the best of both worlds in a way that D&D just doesn't allow.
Yeah.
Or maybe Pathfinder does. I've never really dived into the Divin? Into Pathfinder, but I don't know. The thing I will say, because, we can't, these are kind of our first impressions and kind of our feelings as we talk about them. What I will say is I think that these are very similar to the beta playtest ones we did in the last video, but the ones that I had actual problems with are all gone.
Yes.
Like I think they've made them better.
Severely honed, right? Like
and ancestry abilities aren't the be all end all of characters, and so like the expectation that they're going to be all amazing abilities is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
These are things you get at level 1. They can't be that good or else they would break the game.
Yes.
But
I'm sure you're very grateful that the one where you can just push people within close range.
No, that's still there. It's a druid ability.
It's a druid ability.
It's a druid specialization feature if you're in your water form. Yeah, we're going to talk when we get to the druid specialization.
We'll get there.
We're going to talk about it because that's back.
We'll get there.
But no, I do think that all of the, like the Fungril ability that I was like, this is actually just kind of annoying as a DM, that's just gone.
Yeah.
I do think the fairy...
Well, it's adapted. They honed it.
Sure. It's better. Mm-hmm. What I should say is it's better.
Yeah.
All of the things that I had real problems with are better.
Yeah.
The fairies being able to fly for no cost is going to cause people to ban fairies from their tables. But I also think that if you're allowing fairies at your tables, it's better this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And there are some that I would bulk up. A few of them I think are a little underpowered.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. The Goblin one, I would bulk that one up. The Danger Sense, I would bulk that one up a little bit.
Sure.
There's a few that I would maybe tweak. The frog tongue thing, I would maybe
is like so absurd.
2d12 and not scale with your proficiency.
But then at level 1, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but the Fawns have 2d6 at level 1.
Yeah, that's double.
Well, potentially. Yes,
true.
The problem with the frog one for me is that like 4d12 is an insane attack at level,
I think like in retrospect, that card makes more sense to me now. The first one of just being able to swim or whatever is like, right, because the second ability is like pretty bonkers.
Yeah, true.
So they gave one that is kind of, circumstantial, that doesn't really change.
It's more just something that's there because it makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you get one kind of like really banging ability.
Yeah, because even a d12 like is crazy damage.
Yeah.
12 damage at level 1 is a lot.
Yep.
When everyone else is maxing out at 8, right?
Yep.
But it has a cost, right? Whereas your weapon attack doesn't have a cost. Mm-hmm. And so that's the balancing measure of it.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
I love this game, man. I love the art. One of the things about this is like just going through the art on all of these is so gorgeous, and they do such a good job. They really do. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited to be playing more Daggerheart. The game we have coming out next weekend is really fun. I loved it. It's
very fun.
The one we're planning to film soon, I'm so excited about the plot.
Yeah, you've had this in the works for a while. Yeah. So we're excited to bring that to life.
Can't wait to put that together. Mm-hmm. And then I have a plan for the fall that I'm also stoked about. Like the Daggerheart, the thing about this game right now that I'm so excited about is it's really inspiring me to build games in a way that, Dungeons & Dragons, I got excited for the charity thing. You know what I mean? I got excited for my friends, and the game wasn't really, because I've just played it so much. Mm-hmm. I was like, what do I want to do in it next? Yeah. It was a little bit tougher. Whereas this, like, there's so many unexplored avenues of Daggerheart right now, and those are really cool to me. I'm excited to, like, get some of these things at the table that I haven't already played with and kind of see how they work and how we end up enjoying them and what our friends come up with as we play these games. Yeah. It's going to be fun. Yeah, that's all of the Ancestries. Yeah. Please let us know in the comments down below all the things we got wrong and what you agree with or disagree with.
I don't think there's anything we got wrong.
There's going to be something I said about the language not being specific enough that they're going to be like, actually, you're just stupid. This is how the English language works. I'm going to be like, you know what? You're right.
Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
You talk about it for 2 hours and see if you get everything right.
Yeah, you need to let us know. You must comment. If you got this far in the video, you absolutely need to leave a comment and
Tell us what we
or
should
dislike the video.
Pair with communities next week, because I don't know.
No, I think we'll be fine.
We'll see.
We'll be good.
Maybe there will be breaking news. Maybe like Tiamat will leave WotC and join Daggerheart.
Sure. Yeah.
If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Leave me in comments down below because the algorithm god is hungry and we must feed her. In this episode, the algorithm goddess is the Qatari on the card that looks like my wife.
Fair. Yeah, with a little tail.
Very similar.
Yeah.
You guys should go over to your local podcast feed where you listen to podcasts and rate this 5 stars to help us find people on the podcast feed. The YouTube stuff is doing really well for Roleplay Relay. Mm-hmm. And there are people who listen to this every week. And this channel has no reviews at all. No 5 stars over there. And
Rude.
So if you guys could help us out by helping the Roleplay Relay grow on podcast feeds, that would mean a lot to us. We are on the hunt for 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. And when we get there, Clarus is going to run Star D&D Valley 2.0. Yeah. Very excited for that.
Yeah.
You will be DMing once more.
Yeah.
And it will be the return of Cletus.
And you're going to stream Stardew Valley.
I will probably stream Stardew Valley after we record that, yes.
Yes.
So that for 2.0, I still have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Fair.
And then in the marketing for that coming out, I will play Stardew Valley.
Great. Love it.
Yeah. Very excited for that. Is there anything else we need to say?
No, that's it.
Last Yoke one shot will come out next Saturday.
Yep. And then we'll be back in a week with the communities and maybe something else.
Yeah, maybe something else.
We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see.
Depends how much we talk.
Follow me on the internet. I'm at Nerdy Nightly.
I'm at Clarus Polaris.
Do something nerdy tonight. Bye.
Bye.